Right, welcome to day 3 of the Land Bank Lunchtime Conversations with Food for Mzansi. My name is Duncan Masiwa, Assistant Editor for the agricultural publication Food for Mzansi. Of course, we've been hosting Land Bank since Tuesday, talking about the Blended Finance Program, as well as the Agro Energy Fund. Then we also heard yesterday from the Land Bank CEO, Themba Rikotso, about how Land Bank is repositioning themselves to deliver on its development finance mandate. We also got to hear about some of the innovative insurance solutions that Land Bank has been offering and some of the exciting things that are awaiting us in the future when it comes to agricultural insurance. Today we're taking that conversation a step further, looking at some of the risks that come with farming, whether it's drought, whether it's flooding. And we're talking about what Land Bank is specifically doing to help and assist small scale and medium scale, as well as commercial farmers in that regard. And we'll hear a bit about the solutions that they offer. Joining me on stage is Lefa Ndlovu, who's the head of sales and marketing at Land Bank Insurance Company. Let's give Lefa a round of applause. Joining them also on stage is Itumeleng Mabote, who is a broker at TMT Risk. Let's give Itumeleng a round of applause. Joining Itumeleng from TMT Risk is Samuel Kaulepe, who's also joined with us on stage. Let's give him a round of applause. Joining them on stage is a Shoki Mukwena, a Mpumalanga farmer. She's joined us on stage. Let's give her a round of applause. I got it wrong, Solomon Dino. Solomon Dino. That's right, TMT Risk. And they've also joined us on stage today. Now, of course, we're talking agricultural insurance, and I think I'm going to start the conversation with Ntate Lefa. What makes Land Bank Insurance Company products uniquely suited for the needs of South African farmers? Let's maybe start the conversation there.
Okay. Thank you, Duncan, and good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for attending the session. So I think first off, Land Bank Insurance is a unique insurer. We play specifically in the agri space, and we've been around for quite some time in the market. We are the second biggest insurer in terms of crop insurance. So been around for easy over 50 years. So that gives us a unique positioning in the market, and also from a deep understanding perspective in terms of the knowledge, the understanding, and the expertise that we bring into the market. So we are constantly also looking at better ways and innovations that we can bring into the market. We'll speak just now about index insurance, which is something that we are proud to pilot, having been given that opportunity. So we understand the landscape of agriculture, we understand the needs of farmers, and more importantly, I think aligned to the Land Bank mandate, we're also very deliberate about development, and in that instance also look at how we are able to innovate around the risk mitigation requirements for farmers. Yeah. Thanks.
Itumeleng, I'd like to get an understanding from you. What role do brokers play in helping farmers understand and access the right insurance solutions?
Thank you very much, Duncan, and good afternoon to everybody in attendance. So what we as brokers do, especially in helping our clients understand the risks, is firstly, what we've realized is that a lot of our clients don't always understand what the value proposition is of insurance, especially in the agri space, right? So what we make sure we do is that we always try to go above and beyond in helping our clients understand not only what the crop insurance is about, but also kind of making them aware of other needs that they might not have, be aware of in their farming operations. So in doing that, we're able then to kind of make sure that the client understands fully what the insurance is about, how it works, the value it brings to their operations, and the benefits it will bring them in the case of loss or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's of course very important because we live in a country where access to information is important. And that's why we're having these conversations right now. Solomon, I want to come to you. As a broker, you work quite closely with farmers. Can you maybe share some insights into how farmers are currently using insurance products to manage risks, particularly in challenging regions like the Free State, Gauteng, and Limpopo?
Okay. Yeah, well, most of the farmers, they don't understand the need for the insurance. It simplifies their business in a sense whereby should they suffer any losses, for example, what you offer most is an extended health planning. Should they suffer any loss, so it means that the operations or the planning for the entire crop season will definitely fail. So that's where the insurance will come in, and then it will come handy times whereby they will have to put in some claim so that the operation can run smoothly, and then it will still go according to the plan for that particular crop season.
Silas, you also joined us on stage. You, of course, representing Maxsure. Just briefly explain some of the work that you guys do upshore in various parts of the country.
Thank you very much. We're very excited to be joining this panel, and good afternoon to the audiences. Maxsure, we are a global independent specialist insurance and reinsurance broker. We provide brokerage services to Land Bank, and we are authorized to offer advisory and intermediary services to the farmers. So what we basically do is to ensure that farmers understand the value of insurance, and mainly we're looking into, the technical aspect of it, like explaining to say when the premium is low or when the premium is high, what are the implications of that? So like basically from Maxsure Solutions, when we advise clients, we don't sell cheap premium, we sell value. We do according to the farmer's financial needs, and we advise them on the products that are available in the market and help them to understand, the issues like excesses. Why do you take higher excess? Why do you have to take lower excess? So that at the end of the day, when you got into a space where you have a claim, we want farmers to actually see the value in insurance. Like most farmers will have a challenge to say they have a claim, and the assessors will come to the farm and say you don't have a claim. A farmer does not understand. So we as brokers, we ensure that a farmer understands the terms and conditions of the insurance product, and make sure that they understand in terms of claim, when they say there's no claim, is it because of the excess? Is it because of something else? So we make sure that farmers understand that. At the end of the day, as brokers, we act on behalf, in the interest of the clients. That's the value that we add to the land bank insurance. We act in the interest of the client, and as per government regulation, we are mandated to remain professional. So that's the value that brokers add to the product that land bank insurance is offering. So a farmer is guaranteed that they will get an advice that is impartial, because like we independent, we don't give advice because of we are influenced by someone else. And then land bank insurance, they have clients that understand the product, that minimizes the issues of complaints, the issues of queries. When brokers are involved, the issue of going to insurance ombud is really minimized because, someone makes time to sit with the client and explain how the insurance product works.
Yeah, thank you for that. I want to come to you, Shoki. You are based in Mpumalanga-based farmer. how has access to insurance or financial support impacted your farming operation?
Well, hi everybody, and thank you again for inviting me here. Well, I was never ready to be sitting on stage, I can assure you. Well, I can say with Land Bank Insurance, for one, they have been, oh, my mic just switched off. Well, I can say with Land Bank Insurance, being a grain farmer for one, it has been quite a lengthy and a straightforward process. I think I had to sit in 4 or 5 meetings with them before I could really understand, before I could take the insurance, and before I could say, okay, this is meeting part of my needs. Well, the insurance is good, I can attest, the insurance is there. And fortunately, I've never been affected directly with any loss, and I haven't gotten to the stage whereby I need to lay claims and fight with the brokers and the insurer. So far, I think it's a very good thing. So far, so good.
I'm wondering, Tata Samuel, from you, same question. How has access to insurance or financial support impacted your farming operation?
Good day, everybody. Yeah, I think it's affected it positively because, first of all, if you've got insurance, then you've got peace of mind. And that is what we need as farmers, especially during the planting season, because that window is very, very small, so we have to plant at that certain time. So if you've got peace of mind, then you can really, really concentrate on the farming activities. So that's how it has affected me. Also, I've never really had to claim and fight with the brokers as well, but I think Land Bank Insurance, because I've heard from my neighbors that if you do claim, it's the best of all the insurance. But also, it also helps that then you must talk to your broker. I have a very, very good relationship with my broker because then they can advise you and which product to take, and then they can sit you down and then sit down with you and then make you understand properly the terms and conditions, because most of us as farmers, we not really, if I can say, good legally, if I say that. So the brokers will then say, this piece of paper, because it's so big sometimes, the papers, so they read it for you. Should there be a query or a claim, then you signed what you understood.
Yeah, most definitely. You talk about having insurance bringing about peace of mind. And for many, that peace of mind can be quite expensive. Lefa, I'm wondering, how does Land Bank approach making sure that insurance is also affordable at the end of the day for the farmers that's sitting in the room?
Yeah, so I think the starting point is really understanding why you need to have insurance, right? And I think from what my colleagues have said is quite powerful, because if you understand the need for insurance basically is to cover you in the event where you have unexpected loss, right? Now, if you think about a farming operation, you run a business. So we would cover you, for example, starting with your own life, right, as a farmer. What happens to you in the event that you are not able to generate revenue anymore for your business? What happens in the event where you've got damage, you've got theft on the assets that you have on your farm, including livestock, by the way? What happens in the event where you've got yield loss on your crop? What happens in that way? So effectively, what it means is that the reason why you'd have insurance in the first place is so that you understand that insurance is part of a risk mitigation framework in your farm as a business, right? Now, what we do is we invest quite a lot in education, as Silas has actually said. So we invest a lot in education, we invest a lot in broker training, so that we bring closer to the farmer the real understanding and the detail and the technical understanding of insurance. With that comes the understanding that we would price, or the cost of insurance comes with a risk profile, right? So the risk profile of farmer A may be different from the risk profile of farmer B, depending on what we are covering, right? But the detail of that then is what you have a conversation about with your broker. Because then the broker will be able to tell you, this is what is covered in, this is what is not covered in, and to the extent that you actually have a risk to a certain level, that is how much you need to cover it for, because then that impacts on how much you're going to pay at the end of the day. That said, though, we are moving as an industry, and specifically with land bank insurance, to a space where we look at, number one, more than just understanding that insurance as a concept is very technical, right? But how do we make it affordable? And that comes with innovation. So we're looking at product innovation that would make sure that we do not cover everybody with a sort of blanket approach, right? So Lefa, who may be a more established farmer, would have a different need, right, to a Silas, for example, or a Shoki, for example, who perhaps is starting out. So how do we make sure then that we cover those people specifically in respect of their needs? So we've got product in respect of crop that we are developing to make sure that they are cheaper and they cover certain specific requirements on the farm than what a normal established farmer would require. Similarly with index, and maybe let me speak about that quickly. So we are quite privileged and proud to be afforded the opportunity to pilot index insurance up to the end of September next year.
Which has me very excited, index insurance. Maybe just for the risk of creating an information vacuum, what exactly does index insurance entail?
Yeah, thank you. So effectively what index insurance is, it covers two aspects. So you have what we call pasture drought index insurance and area yield. Pasture drought basically covers the cost of feed for your livestock, right? That would result from drought, right? Area yield will then cover the cost of yield loss, right, on an average basis. So in other words, if you are in Bothaville, for example, and there is drought in Bothaville, everybody who lives in Bothaville will be affected by the same risk, isn't it? So one, it makes it a little bit cheaper in terms of cover because it's not specific to my farm or his farm. Everybody's affected by the same risk. And to then the extent that what we then cover is what is a common loss to everybody. So if you've got livestock, it means that everybody would have the same risk in terms of the loss of feed to our livestock, that is on the pasture drought side. On the area yield, then it would mean that what we would have expected to get in yield, as a result of rain or whatever climate condition there may be, would be affected by the same condition. So less than expectation in terms of yield would then trigger a claim. So what that does is that instead of then looking at the underwriting from an individual farmer perspective, you look at an area. Now, what is important with index insurance is that it's very data-based, it's data-driven. So we look at it from a district perspective. So let's take Bothaville as an example. So we'll get data in terms of rainfall patterns, historical rainfall patterns. We'll also look at drought conditions, if that is what applies in the area, and that is the basis on which we'll apply the product, and equally what would trigger a claim in the end. What is, however, more important about the exercise is that the whole idea of index insurance is to make sure that you have more and more farmers who understand insurance as a very technical concept. We understand that, but more importantly, start to participate, right? In financial services, comprehensive financial services, right? Insurance being one of the key aspects of that particular exercise. So we are continuously engaging. We started with the exercise last year. As I say, the pilot will end at the end of September next year. So we are doing extensive engagement with farmers, extensive engagement with farmer groups, and also with our brokers to make sure the product goes out there, and then we get the full sort of value of the product in the pilot, so that ultimately it gets approved for us to be able to sell.
That's amazing. I'd like to hear some of the success stories that may have come out of the crop damage in index insurance that Landbank offers.
Yeah, so we started the first round of the pilot in November last year, right? So it's kind of been a very short period. But what we've gotten in terms of, call it qualitative feedback, right, is quite amazing. So it basically then tells us that, number one, a lot of the farmers that we've engaged with, that we actually gone to a stage of quoting, have actually said to us, number one, we don't quite understand the concept. We don't quite understand the product at first presentation. So you need to do multiple iterations, multiple presentations. Number two, what came out was the issue of cost, and I suppose that is expected. So if you are a smallholder farmer, what you worry about is what is in the core of the operation, right? If you had not been exposed to something like insurance before, it kind of looks very expensive until you actually understand what the value is to what Silas was talking about. So that came out as a critical point to look at. So what it says to us is that in the second iteration, we need to do a lot more work, more than just providing education, but sitting down with farmers and actually doing, call it indicative quoting if you like, right? To be able to say, for the next cycle, or for the next season, in your budget as you plan, consider this line item, right? So it may come across as an expense, yes, but it's actually important in terms of how you cover the risk in your business going forward.
Yeah. Of course, for those of you who join us online, we are discussing Land Bank Insurance Solutions. If you hear a bit of noise in the background, it's an orchard fan that is blowing right next to where we are. Itumeleng, I am almost scared to ask farmers to lift up their hands and let us know who has insurance, because I can tell you that most of them probably don't have insurance. Because number one, it's expensive, and a lot of them live hand to mouth. What are some of the misconceptions that farmers have, or that you've experienced that farmers have about agricultural insurance?
That's a very good question, Duncan. I think to answer your question quite just simply, right, is that most farmers think that they only need insurance for the big losses, right? So a lot of the times when, especially like you have indicated and Tatelif has indicated, because it's a cost, there's a cost benefit to it, right? Or it's cost intensive rather. Most farmers think that only when the big stuff happens, only when the health damage is big, only when this and that happens, is only when I need insurance. And that is the biggest misconception of all, because truly insurance is something that is extremely critical for the farmer, regardless of how small one may be, regardless of what farming process you may be engaged with, whether it's crop or whether livestock. Insurance forms the cornerstone of your operations, because even if it's the most menial thing, the smallest thing, we are able to come to you as brokers, have a sit down with you to understand what the losses are and how the products from Land Bank Insurance can assist you with making sure that your operations don't cease. Because I think all farmers in this room can agree that ceasing operations is one of the biggest things, right? Having to stop for either crop damage, for either loss because of fire or things like that. So we are there to ensure that over and above everything, that your operation goes smoothly as possible, and to ensure that at the end of the day, there's success for you. So that's what's important for us. So the biggest misconception, like I said, don't think while you're sitting here that you don't need insurance. Trust me, once we sit down, we come to you, we have a good talk, we have a good chat, we start to see your fields, we start to see what you have. We can have a great understanding of what your needs are, and tailor-make comprehensive insurance products that fit your pocket.
Yeah, most definitely. Of course, this is an open platform, so get your questions ready for any of the experts that you see on stage. Shoki, I want to come to you. Farming is extensive. It's extensive. It's challenging, and it is far from easy.
Yes.
What are some of the biggest risks you face on your farm today, and how do you currently manage it?
Well, as you have indicated, farming is very extensive, guys. And I can sit here and attest farming is very expensive. One, money is expensive. Two, your time can never be regained. So sitting here, as Papa has said, insurance gives you a peace of mind. One of the challenges, actually three most challenges that we face. One is drought. When we took the cover last year upon planting, there was no cover for drought. So we actually appreciate the index insurance that is currently taking place, because we have been in engagements with them that, guys, the primary problems that we as farmers face is drought. So if you don't cover for drought, and then the insurance is not tailor-made for us. For example, we do not suffer from hail, but you want to come here and cover me for hail. I do not experience hail, so I cannot pay, let's say, a sum of 50,000 rands, whereas I'm not going to experience hail. But farming is a risk. It is a yes or a no. It's a 50-50 type of business. So the second one is theft. It can be theft of livestock. It can be theft of your goods in transit. You know, after you harvest, people actually steal your produce while you're moving it to the silos. So those are the two primary problems that we face. And another one is fire. Right now, we're approaching winter, and it's critical. The grass is now dry. There's bales everywhere upon coming here. So we don't know whether the people are burning the fields or the fields are just magically burning, but that is a major risk on its own. So insurance is critical at this point.
And Samuel, these are just some of the realities that come with farming. In your case, in your experience, what are some of the biggest risks that you currently face, and how have you been able to manage that?
I think, sorry. I think the biggest risk that I face is climate change in general. That one, over the past few years, has taken a lot of farmers out of business. And believe me, it's very difficult to get back into business once you get out of business. Because, I mean, we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 million in 1 year. So that is the biggest risk, climate change. But what I can advise, and this is what I do as well on the side of the crops, is know your soil, know your land, and then spread the risk, because that's what I do, and it has helped me. Because when I started, it really hit me, and I nearly got out of business as well. Because you think, I've got enough machinery, and then I've got to plant maybe 500 hectares, and that I can plant in 2 weeks, and then you go and push that in that 2 weeks that you're going to plant, and then you plant it. But before the others emerge, then the rain comes, and then you lose. So what I do nowadays, or in the recent years, is that I spread the risk. I mean, I plant 300 hectares. So I plant 100 hectares first, as early as possible. That's also one of the other things. Plant as early as possible, and plant the good fields, because normally on the farm, the blocks don't have the same potential. Plant the ones that got a good potential, plant them first, so that you know that this is my bread basket, if I can say that. And then also, should it rain later on in the year, maybe like December, January, should it rain a lot, then at least if you don't plant the last ones, then you know that I've planted the bread basket, at least I'm still in business next year, because that one is going to cover me. The other one must maybe just profit. So start with the good part of it, and on your farm, plant at least half of it, or 3/4 of it. Like I divided it 3/4. I plant 100, and then 100 later. So that's how I've done it in the recent years, and I see it working, because sometimes then the last part I don't get to plant, because it's either it's too dry or it's too wet. But then I know that I'm covered. But imagine if I trusted my machinery and I said, no, I'm going to plant in December, or I'm going to plant all in early January, and then it rains a lot. And then I take 2 weeks, I don't get into the field, because that's what happens sometimes. By the time you manage to get into the fields, it's too late already. So the first thing is, how I mitigate the risk is I plant 1/3 of my farm as early as possible. Because I've also seen, this is the mistake that I also do, and this is what most of the mistakes that the farmers do, is that once we harvested, then we go on holiday a lot. I don't say people mustn't go on holiday, because I also go on holiday, but that is the time that you must fix your machinery, prepare the land as early as possible. Have a good relationship with your financier, get enough diesel just to prepare the land. Prepare your land as early as possible, so that on the first rains, at least you plant something.
Great advice there from Intate Samuel. It brings me to my question, Silas, listening to what Intate Samuel is talking about, the challenges that come with farming, especially when it comes to climate change. How is Maxshaw innovating its offerings to farmers in an agricultural landscape that is ever evolving? No day is ever the same.
All right, thank you very much. I must indicate that the products that we advise clients on are the products from the Land Bank Insurance. So the innovative products that the Land Bank Insurance brings on is what we advise farmers on. And also from broker side, we would like to appreciate Land Bank, because when we talk to clients, they will tell you, look, you want to give me a hail. You said the only product available is a hail cover for my crop. but I got a problem. The problem is drought. What are you saying to me? And now at least we are able to roll out the index as one step towards ensuring that at least the advices that we give farmers and the product that we give them, at least even if they don't cover fully their needs, but at least they cover to a certain level. What I also want to indicate, which is very important for farmers to know, is we often get to farms and a farmer will tell you, I'm in the Northwest, there's no hail here. Or I'm in Limpopo, there's no hail here. I would like to put the message through to say, climate change is a reality. There is no area that now you can say there's no hail here. Because, we had a case in Limpopo where a farmer said, no, just make that thing as cheap as possible because there's no hail here. Very same season, the farmer got hail. So farmers, we need to know whether in the last 10 years, you never had hail in your area, you need to insure your crop. And in terms of how do you deal with the risk that is there on the farms, like issue of what we just had now. From my side, what I'll say to farmers is, in terms of crop, we as developing farmers, we don't have the material or the resources to do what we call replanting. It's very expensive to do that. Now, what we encourage farmers to do is from as early as September, talk to your broker, because we have from the Land Bank Insurance what we call planning policies that you take before you even plant. When you're done planting, and then we adjust to the actual hectares that you have planted. This helps you because when you've taken a planning policy and you are planting, while you are busy planting and there's germination perhaps in other lands, then you get hail damage to the germinated crop. You can then claim and you get replanting. So those are some of the things that farmers can actually use in terms of trying to look at the risk that they are faced. And one last point that I want to make is, for me, the issue of insurance, I heard you alluding to it to say it's expensive. When I talk, I don't want to say it's cheap, and I don't want to say it's expensive. Most farmers don't take insurance because they think it's expensive, or there's a myth, or there's a talk around to say it's expensive. That's why brokers are here. That's why I'm saying, let's view brokers as an opportunity for farmers to explain these things to you. You come to me, or you come to us as brokers, you say, this is the amount that I have that I can allocate for insurance. We will work it out in line with the risks that you're faced with, to say, this is how you can be insured. Either whatever budget you have, we can make a way to find a product that is suitable and the premium that is suitable for that budget. We can make that way. That's why we're working closely with Land Bank Insurance, as Levi has alluded to say, we invest more time from Makshore in training. So that is the element, because we even at Makshore willing to go to a point where we are doing quotations for training purposes. We don't mind. It's a lot of work. We don't mind because we understand that the more the farmer understands these products, the more they will then be able to manage their risk.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yes.
I want to come to Solomon, and I'm going to ask one of my colleagues maybe just to grab the mic from Ntate Samuel as we get ready to take some questions from the floor. We've heard how Shoki has expressed relief when it comes to the index insurance. What are some of the key challenges that you've encountered in getting farmers to fully embrace the risk management tools like the crop damage and index insurance, and how can Land Bank and Land Bank Insurance Company overcome these hurdles to support farmers better?
Okay. So before I came in to get an opportunity from LBIC, I thought that farming is very easy until I was in it, and then what farmers go through on a daily basis during the planning, and the crops are there. Now, the other time we were having a farmers workshop in Eastern Free State. This was in Bethlehem. And then while I was listening on the side, one farmer is talking to the other one saying, I can't get you over the phone. What is wrong? That is the period earlier this year. We had so much rain whereby they were scared that we're not going to be able to harvest this year. You see, so that's why it is very, very important for those farmers to understand the need for insurance. And then we come in as the brokers. And then also how Land Bank has made it so simple, because they come in with, when they fund the farmers, there is a grant for the insurance. It means that they're saying the need is so much in a point whereby you're not going to be paying everything out of your pocket. We come in as LBIC and say we are assisting you so that you can protect your production for this particular crop season. So as the brokers, we come in and we'll say to you, let's have a chat over a coffee. We understand what are the challenges that are there. We'll also come in and say, okay, don't overlook this one because you might think it's not going to happen. Then it ends up happening, and then so we'll come in and then assist you in that regards. So it is very, very important, and we are there to assist as the brokers. So we are here to help you, and then to all the farmers that are here, please walk out here understanding that there is a need for insurance.
Yeah. Lifa, I want to know, as I make my way down the stage, how does the Land Bank insurance company collaborate and partner with initiatives like the blended finance scheme to support farmers and provide them comprehensive insurance support?
Yeah. So, if you think about it in a sense of a comprehensive financial solution, the Land Bank provides funding. We provide insurance on the back of that funding, right? So what it does is, number one, for the farmer, it means you get both solutions from one point. That's important. Two, it also means that between Land Bank and Land Bank insurance, we also then get to better understand what are the needs of farmers at a deeper level. Because on one hand, you are funding an operation. On the other end, there is a risk on a number of levels, as I mentioned, right? So there is credit life, which basically covers the farmer. There is the asset part that covers, the assets that are on the farm itself, right? And then there's cover that also covers the produce. So collaboration is very important. So if you take, for example, a conversation like what we are having this week at Nampo, right? On Tuesday, we started a conversation that talks about funding, right? We spoke yesterday also partly about the insurance cover. So this is one form of collaboration. Two is that it's important that when we show up to farmers, we do not show up as varied entities, because that will not help anybody, and more especially the farmer. The farmer needs to understand that this is my one point of entry, or this is my one-stop shop, as it were, so that you get the best of the comprehensive offering that we have in insurance as well as in funding. There are also a number of initiatives that we embark on with the two entities that assist farmers. One of the critical things is access to markets, right? So I'm sure Lita touched on a number of the initiatives yesterday that they're working on. So we partner also with Land Bank on those. So to the extent then that a product like blended finance comes into play, it comes into play on the back of already established collaborative initiatives, right? And how it then also helps is that where you have the funding approved and the disbursements done, there's actually a portion in that product that is allocated for insurance. So in that sense then, it also assists the farmer to be able to access not just the funding, but also the protection that comes with that particular funding for the operation. So the collaboration between us and Land Bank, we are quite close.
For our online viewers, you are more than welcome to pose your questions as well. We'll get to that and ask our experts to also respond to that. We've got a question from a gentleman, Lot. What is your question and to who is it directed?
Well, I'm not sure, maybe directed to the panel. Earlier on it was mentioned that you provide livestock insurance. Do you mind just specifying against which risks? Will that cover natural disasters, disease outbreaks, theft? Can someone just give a bit of clarity on that?
Yeah, thanks. So livestock insurance would cover risks, for example, like transit, right? So transportation of animals, let's say from auction to your farm or vice versa. We would cover certain specified diseases on your farm. We would cover, risks, for example, like animal bites and so forth. What we do not, however, cover, and I know this is a controversial one, is theft. And the reason why we don't do that, it's not just Land Bank, but it's also the industry. It's because of the ability to validate the claim of theft, right? So the process from where the incident actually happens to how it gets reported and investigation process is actually quite onerous. So from an industry perspective, you'd find theft is generally excluded just because of the reasons that I mentioned. But pretty much most of what would be, so certain diseases, we'll look into the detail of that. Certain diseases are definitely covered. We cover sort of the practicalities of how you transport your livestock. So in the event that you get into an accident, children transportation and so forth, that would be covered.
And natural disasters?
We would cover natural disasters to an extent, right? So that we'll have to look into the detail and the profile.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I would like to maybe take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to Land Bank, as this is not the first series of insurance seminars that we have received. My name is Tao Mao, I'm from Kolini. There was a series of such a magnitude of an event in Kolini. But we asked a question that maybe perhaps was not answered clearly because of I'm into horticulture and poultry. And in most cases, insurance companies don't cover poultry production. But now when it comes to horticulture, because of clearly most insurance presentations, they speak about livestock and they speak about crop. But now in this regard, horticulture part of it, we have assets as well. And in those assets that we have as horticulture farmers, what do you cover and what do you not cover? Because we most sometimes forget to even include this thing of water, the water pump and the pressure pump to be part of our assets, because of that's something that you don't think about when you actually speak about your assets. But I want to understand those things. You also cover those things because of that impact. It impacts the input costs that we incur if we don't really can generate water from the ground. But nonetheless, I just want to know, why don't you touch on horticulture and only focus on livestock and crop? Livestock and crop. Thank you.
Okay, so the mandate of Land Bank Insurance specifically is to look at aspects that are around food security. That's why our primary focus is around livestock and crop in terms of food production, right? But perhaps what you're saying is, perhaps there's also a need that would speak to a broader transformation conversation, because, while we look at food security, but there's other areas in agriculture that we need to look at, especially where it supports emerging farmers, right? But to the extent then that you would have equipment, that you would have, technology that you use in that production, that will be able to cover in asset, right? But not necessarily in the actual end product. But perhaps maybe something to look at in terms of how we innovate going forward.
Itumeleng, while we get another indication from who has a question in the audience, how do you approach helping farmers assess their risks and choose the most suitable cover?
Thank you so much. So that's quite easy for us, Duncan, because what we pride ourselves in doing as TMT Risk is always making sure that we go to the customer, right? We go to the farmer. That enables us to really sit down and understand what the needs of the farmers are. And it also gives us an opportunity to actually look at some blind spots in terms of the risk that the farmer might be facing, which they are not aware of. So basically, that would mean that we come to you as a farmer, we sit down, and really trying to understand your operations, right? So what do you want to do? What is your planning? What are you planning to plant, for example, in terms of crop? What are you planning to plant? And also try to figure out your land masses, how big they are, how many hectares, etc., etc. And also, like Datelifa said, quite importantly, we don't just focus on the crop part. The gentleman in the audience quite importantly said, there are some times, and it happens a lot of times, where farmers don't insure their assets, right? You have a tractor, you have other farming implements that you're utilizing, and you never think of what is going to happen if I have a problem with this particular asset, right? And that's where we also come in terms of the blind spots. We are able to sit with you and say, look, in terms of the crop, this is where you might be. This is what might be needed, and these are the requirements, and this is how we're going to help you to get you the quotes. But also, have you actually even thought about your asset insurance? Have you thought about your tractor? Have you insured about, for an example, if you have a vehicle? Have you thought about that in terms of insurance? And that's where we also come to assist you, because what we want to get out of the interaction between ourselves and the farmer or the client is a comprehensive understanding of how we as the brokers can assist you to ensure that your farming operations are top-notch. They're always working. There's nothing that you have to worry about. And like that Samuel said, you have peace of mind, because when you have peace of mind that should something happen to my implements, to my assets, or to my crops or my livestock, there is always somebody, or there's a product from Land Bank Insurance which will speak to that particular need and will sort it out for me, while I focus on making sure that my operations are always on the move so that the ball is not dropped.
Okay, thank you very much. Speaking is Puso Mudise from Rustenburg, Bojanala District. My first question is, does Land Bank offer insurance to both commercial and emerging farmers, or only commercial farmers? Then my second question is, what does Land Bank do to make farmers aware of this kind of insurance? Because I'm quite aware that most of the farmers are not aware of this. So I want to know if Land Bank, is there a way that you can bring this enlightenment to the farmers, or you only bring it to the farmers who comes to NetBank to inquire about the insurance? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So, number one, we cover both commercial and emerging farmers. Our focus, as I said in the beginning, is that we are very particular and deliberate in terms of development of emerging farmers, but also development and inclusion of the insurance value chain in terms of the people that actually sell the insurance for us. So we cover the spectrum, right? Secondly, in terms of awareness creation, we spend a lot of time. I mean, to give you a sense, in the last financial year, we trained just over 2,000 farmers in different regions. So we have partnerships with farmer organizations. We've got partnerships that we are now getting into with cooperatives, as it were. We've got partnerships that we're getting into with sort of co-funders and other sort of offtake organizations. But what we then do practically, and very often so, is that we also partner with local or provincial governments that support agriculture or agricultural departments in the various provinces. So perhaps maybe where we need to improve on is in how we get people who don't know into these sessions, right? Because we work through the groups. Maybe we could look at how we better improve the communication. So we work a lot through farmer organizations, where we organize training sessions, where we organize engagement sessions with farmers. We also work a lot through farmer events, for example, your NAMPOs, your farmer days, and so forth in the different provinces. But we spend a lot of time on the ground with farmers. Maybe what we need to do then is just understand where are you so that we are able to get closer to where you are, and then maybe understand where are the gaps in terms of how is it that we get information closer to where you need to be. The other thing that's important, and I think it's good that we've got brokers around us, because from an insurance perspective, brokers play a critical role, not only just in providing advice and selling insurance, but also as an extension of our brand and an extension of how we provide information to farmers. So, for example, some of the gentlemen here are from the Free State. Some of the guys here, Mark Shaw, they are mostly they're in most of the regions. So when you come across them, they are also a point of information, right? But we'll then definitely look at how we close the gap in terms of where perhaps we are missing avenues of communication, or making sure that our awareness reaches everybody.
Hi. Dumelang. Kim Po from Gauteng. You mentioned all these two sectors, but I haven't heard you guys mentioning insurance for poultry. Is there any insurance for poultry, and what do you cover?
So, in poultry specifically, we look at the asset side of it, right? We cover the infrastructure. We'll cover the other assets that you have in the production of poultry. We don't have a specific product necessarily for the birds themselves, right? But would cover the infrastructure, would cover the other assets that are on there. And I think it's a good question that you're asking. Perhaps something to also look at as part of how we innovate going forward. But maybe let me also emphasize there, because I think we only look at this just one aspect, and maybe that's where the core of the business is. But if you actually think about it, a poultry farm, you invest a lot in the infrastructure, right, of producing those birds, right? There's electricity that is involved in there, there's security that is involved in there, there's a structure that you need to put around to make sure that the birds are safe and they are able to produce optimally. So those are the things that we'll be able to help you with from a cover point of view.
Good day to you all. My name is Jacob from Northwest. My question, I'm not sure if I might have missed the point. Are pastures covered from things like fire? Cattle, lands.
Yeah. Yes, they are. So our covers do cover, our policies do cover fire. I think Shoki mentioned that one of the risks that they encounter on farms as a common risk is fire. So fire is definitely covered.
We've got one more question from the audience.
Can I please just stand up for this question? I realize the contradiction just there, but the contradiction is not too much. It's in line with what you guys provide. You said you can fund applicants for whatever they want to be funded for. So let's take in this regard a poultry farmer or a horticulture farmer asking for support from Land Bank. And you said when an application is approved by Land Bank, the insurance also covers what the Land Bank is going to be providing. So in this regard, I make an application, I get approved, I'm a horticulture and a poultry farmer. How are you going to come in as an insurance company of Land Bank vis-a-vis the application that I've done that has been approved? Can you please just answer that question? Thanks.
Yeah. So how the process would typically work is that, so you would go to a relationship manager at Land Bank, you go through the process of submission and the process is approved, right? Land Bank will send us a lead that says there's an approval for this type of funding, right? Then we'll then look at what we are able to provide. So we have already said that poultry will be able to cover your own assets. We'll also be able to cover the credit life, so which means the life portion of what would cover your debt. Then what we'll then do is we'll then look at in the area that you are in, who do we have as a broker? Because how we operate in terms of insurance is we are an intermediated business, so we work through brokers. So we'll then get a broker involved. If you already do not have a broker, we'll get a broker involved that will come and have an engagement with you. Now what the broker will do is, firstly, they would look at what is the nature of your business. What is it that you are being funded for? Number two, what are the risks that you are facing in your business? So in other words, what is the risk profile of your particular operation? I think Silas has covered that quite extensively. Thirdly, they will then be able to give you advice, which is the most important part. They will be able to give you advice, right, of what is it that you are covered, or what you need to cover, and how much you need to cover it for. So looking at the whole spectrum of what your operation looks like and what your risk profile is and what you could potentially be exposed to from a risk perspective. On that basis then, they will generate a quotation based on your risk profile, based on the risk that you need to cover, right? Then the quotation will then give you a sense, number one, of the extent of which you are covering risk. So in other words, here, if you were to have experienced fire, right, the destruction in loss, what it would take to replace whatever you would have lost, and how much would that cover. So that speaks to value, and again, the advice that the broker would be giving you. Then on that basis, then if you agree on what would be have provided you in terms of a quotation, then you would sign on it, and that is how we would be able to provide you with cover.
Right.
I hope that clarifies.
One last question, then we have to wrap it up.
Hello everyone, my name is Pat. I have 3 questions. The first one, is it like the insurance, is it tailored to a farmer? And the second question is like is the amount fixed? The reason why I'm asking this is because, let me just say, this season you plant maybe, let me just say, half a hectare, right? Then the next season you decide to increase like maybe to a hectare. So I wanted to also to know that. And I will say I'm kind of skeptical and also scared because like my sister here, right, said like she has insurance and like she hasn't like maybe, let me just say, made claims. I would like to know, is there any maybe an emerging farmer that like made claims? Yeah, thank you.
So can you just repeat the last part of your question? So when you said emerging farmer, I missed the last part of it.
I just wanted like to know, do you have any emerging farmer that made claims regarding like, yeah.
Okay, so the first part of the question, yes, we cover emerging farmers, right? So I think to the earlier question, so we don't discriminate between an emerging farmer and a commercial farmer, right? Our business is to cover risk. That's number one. Number two, to your question, so your amount of premium that you'll be paying will depend on the hectareage or the size of your business. So if you increase your business, or when your business grows, it means that the risk also grows, isn't it? So if you farm 5 hectares today, next year you farm 7 hectares. It means then that what you need to cover is bigger than what you had covered the previous season. So on that basis then, there would be a slight increase in terms of what you're... So in other words, it doesn't necessarily double because you doubled, right? So you look at what is the risk, you look at what is the risk profile of the area, we look at what is it that you need to cover. Then it sort of goes into what is a determination in terms of an increase from what you had previously paid. So it just follows in terms of how you grow. So your third question in terms of claims. So maybe let me first say this first as a principle. As an insurance company, our existence is to cover risk, which means we pay claims. That's what we exist for. Okay, so it's perhaps a good thing, touch wood, that they've not had claims, because remember, when you claim, it means you've lost something. Okay, when you claim, it means you lost something. So our job, our main reason for existence, is to make sure that at a point when you experience loss, you don't have to go back into your bank account and look for money elsewhere to fund what you would have lost. That's what we cover in cash, right? So we would replace in cash to the value of what you would have insured. So we do have emerging farmers that have claimed, right? And quite a lot for that matter. So in other words, just to put you at it's not because we have declined claims or we've closed the door on claims. We've just been fortunate that they've not experienced any loss, right? But we do pay claims. That's why we exist as an insurance business. Sorry? Yeah.
I'd like also solely to share a story of actually one of our claimants as TMT, just to give you an overall perspective on what happens if there is loss and a claim is put through.
Yeah, it's from one of the emerging farmer in the Eastern Free State. He experienced a hail damage. This was earlier in the year. I think it was in February month. So he gave me a call around, it was Sunday evening, and then Monday got to talk to Agriseker. Then the following day, the assessors were there at the farm to assess the damage. So that's how quick we work. So we are on the ground, we are always there to see that the operations are running smoothly. So it's a hassle-free claim stage. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Itumeleng, as we wrap up this conversation, just following up on the question that the gentleman asked, what advice would you give to farmers that are considering insurance for the very first time?
Thank you so much, Duncan. Simple advice, it is never too late. It's actually the best time to consider insurances now. The reason why I say that is because, like Dr. Samuel has indicated earlier, climate change has become part of our lives now. We live in uncertain times, and I think being a farmer, you are one of the most at-risk individuals or operations out there, right? Because you never know what happens on a farm. Today, it's sunny, tomorrow, there's hail, and you experience loss. So it's never too late. And also, I think one other important thing that I'd like to indicate, Duncan, is that we as brokers are there to hold your hand, to make sure that we take all these complex terms, all these legal jargon, and we simplify it for you as a client. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is to make sure that we impart our knowledge to you so that you understand in the simplest of forms how insurance functions, right? Because the more you understand or know how easy it is to understand the insurance, creates a situation where you are more likely to take it, right? And understand the value it brings to you. So anyone who needs us, we are there as TMT Risk, any time of the day. I think we're available after this. So for a small meet and greet, and then we'll just further explain so that we can try to build a relationship with you as farmers, right? Because at the end of the day, for us to have a meaningful relationship is for us to start talking, understand your needs as farmers, and make sure that at claim stage, at any time when there's a loss or risk that you may be facing, we are there to make things much easier for you.
Yeah. And wrap this, Lefa, wrap this up for us nicely. Your message to farmers that are still hesitant about investing in insurance, what is your message to them?
Yeah, so I think number one is that to emphasize, insurance is a key aspect of your business as a farmer, right? It's part of an important risk mitigation toolbox. It's very important. Number two, we do realize that it's perhaps critical as it may be, also not well understood. And I think as we have said, through the brokers, through the initiatives that we are doing, please engage with us. We will engage with you as well. We'll, I suppose, do better in terms of the communication here in that we are perhaps not reaching everywhere we need to reach to make sure that everybody understands what insurance is, and more importantly, what is the value of insurance to your business as a farmer. Thirdly, is to emphasize also that we have brokers. The use of a broker is very important in that these guys are trained, they are the technical experts. They're an extension of our brand. So when you speak to a broker and they say we represent Land Bank, be assured that they've been vetted, they've been granted the mandate to operate on our behalf, and they'll give you the advice that you need. They're on the ground, they will be with you. They'll have to come to your farm and look at your operation. They can't give you advice on something that they have not seen, right? But lastly, I just want to emphasize that information is key. Our doors are open. We've got representation across many provinces. Please walk into our offices. You'll get information, and we are here to help you. Thanks.
There you have it. Information is key. Your hands in mind for our expert panelists on stage. Thank you so much for sharing the information, and I'm sure that just after the session, you'll be getting some more questions. For those of you who are here in the room, feel free to stay behind. There's some snacks at the back, some drinks. Feel free to chat with our experts on stage or the Land Bank representatives in the room. Thank you so much once again, and you have a fantastic number harvest 2025.